show where we dig deep into the biggest UFO headlines, the fight for disclosure, and the push for transparency. This isn't just a news show, it's a discussion. We break down the stories, examine the possibilities, and explore the unanswered questions and search for the truth. No political spin, no biased narratives, just the facts, the analysis, and yes, the conversations that move the needle. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G. It's time to dig in to the show tonight. And I just went ahead and did something kind of impromptu on this show tonight. There's finally some movement going on in the UFO community, and I'm one that is glad to see it. A few different things have happened if you've been watching the news lately, and just some motion. That's really what I'm worried about. I'm just wanting to make sure that the motion continues, the conversations continue within the community, and I think we have at least enough movement to sit here, get together, and talk about it. So let me go ahead and take a look out there and see who's showing up here real quick. We got Frankie B in the building. Actually, let me scroll up here. We have Fast Hemi coming on in, saying hello, Social Dig, Mr. Rob G. Hey, Fast Hemi, thanks for coming on in. Ginger Turtle 43. Hey, long time. What's up, folks? What's up, Ginger Turtle? Appreciate you showing on up here. Kitty Catty Whack. Kitty Catty Whack's in the building saying hi, Rob and all. Hey, Kitty Catty Whack. Thanks for showing up here tonight. Also, Frankie B. Frankie B in the building saying hello. Hello, Frankie B. Appreciate you showing up. We have, let's see. Fast Simmy said Dave's beard is why Rob G is running late. Let's blame everything on Dave's beard. Why not? Why not? We can do that. Let's see. Operation Shutdown is in the building saying, I need the UFO news. Okay, let's get into it then. We'll get right on into this here. Magneticus Attractus in the building saying listening as well. Let me go ahead and bring up our slides here for the show. And all right, so definitive UFO news show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. You know how it goes down. The phone number that you can call in anytime, and you really should just program this number to your phone. Just put it in your phone book. That number is 856-843-3444. That's 856 the dig. We may pop up and put that to use tonight and do a call-in show. So get that number on deck, put it in your phone, get ready to call in and talk about some of your experiences tonight. If you're calling from outside the United States, you can just simply dial 001 before the number. So 001-856-843-3444, or that's 001-856 the dig. You can definitely do that. We'd appreciate it. That number is 24/7. There is a message line on there. You can call, leave your experience. Just you got 3-minute limit to do it. You can call, you can send over some documents or things that you might think are interesting to show on the show. You can also just text and say hi. Sometimes it's nice to do that. Sometimes it's nice to just drop in, say, hey, how you doing? How's your day so far? And those are things that make people feel good. And I'd appreciate it. I wouldn't mind it at all as we go ahead and get ready to get into the conversation here tonight. So let me see what we have. We have memberships available right here on the channel, just so you know you can become a member at any time. It's no pressure at all, but we do appreciate the members because they help this thing go around. They help pay some of these subscriptions, and it's always appreciated. This is not a cheap business to be in. But membership so far, last time I checked, was Ann Joanne, the Beekeeper, D. Nunley, Maggie M10, Flat 6, Miss Catherine Jones, Cosmic Joe Chronicles, Wes W. Decker, Steel Pooh 69, Polly Rodderman, Lil Cat 51, Frankie B, and Fast Hemi. Appreciate your love and support for the show. Without you guys, it's really hard to make this thing go around and stay consistent, right? So always appreciated as well as we get ready to just get into some of the talking points today. There was something I wanted. We got the main topic, obviously, which is the Tic-Tac UFO is back. Not that it went anywhere. We know it didn't actually go anywhere. We know that it's been here and it's been reported on since the 50s at least. That's the 1950s, because we'll be in the 2050s before you know it. And they'll be like, what 50s are you talking about? We're talking about the 1950s. So this has definitely been a shape that's been reported all this time. One of the most famous reports we have of current modern UFO era, obviously, is David Fravor, Alex Dietrich, with their eyewitness account of one of these things in action, and some of the responses that it made seem to be intelligently controlled. And it's been, it's been a debatable subject with skeptics only because, for some strange reason, they feel like we have created this as far as human beings, government tech. I don't see it. We've done previous shows where we look at the design language of black projects that have come out over the years, even up to the most recent project, which is the F-47 and the B-21. All of these things have similar design language as we've talked about before: triangular, angular craft, no new means of propulsion, nothing that even points or hints towards that. So in the last conversation, we kind of got to the point to where we're like, you know what? I think it's time to put the quote unquote government has created anti-gravitic craft, put that story to bed, because to this day we have no evidence of that, not even a drop of evidence of the government reverse engineering anti-gravitic craft. And I think if we don't have the evidence, then we shouldn't promote it in that fashion, because when we promote it in that fashion, then when someone sees a tic tac in the sky, they even have this small little part of their mind that says that could be government crap. And I think we kind of need to take that out of the conversation the more and more that it does not present itself as such, right? And so, kind of, I'm just glad that the story is back. And shout out to Jeremy Corbell for, in a moment where there's a lull in the UFO community and there's a need for news, that he pulls something out of the hat. I've always gave him his props on that. It always seems to be the case that when there is a lull, you have Corbell, George Knapp reaching into the bag of some things maybe they had received information on a year or two ago, but reaching in the bag to keep the conversation moving and keep the conversation going. And so in this moment, I think it's very important that the Tic Tac is back on the scene, because it was the marquee extraterrestrial craft when we're talking about the current modern UFO era, right? As far as Lou Elizondo coming out and saying what he said, we consider that the current modern UFO era. The modern UFO era can go back all the way to Roswell, right? So we're not excluding any group. We're just specifically speaking to the last 20 years as far as when this made, when this encounter was something that should have made national news. So before we start that, though, I ran up on a story here that I wanted to talk about, and it had to do with one of the gentlemen, the Chinese national that was arrested for flying a drone over Vandenberg Air Force Base, right close to where I'm at, not too far from where I'm at. And if I bring this up here, I think it's interesting. It's very interesting. I'm going to read to you the story, and I kind of gave you a synopsis. This is right around the drone incursion. I think it was gosh, it should tell us the date here. Let me go ahead and read it here. This is courtesy of Petapixel. Pasala Bandara wrote this article. We'll go ahead and read it here. Drone pilot jailed for 4 months for taking photo Space Force base. And this was dated yesterday. This article is dated yesterday. A Chinese national has been sentenced to jail for flying a drone over and taking photos of U.S. Space Force base. Last week, Yin Pao Zhu, a 39-year-old U.S. permanent resident who lives in Brentwood, California, was sentenced to 4 months in prison with a year of supervised release to follow. According to the Orange County Register cited by Space.com, Zhu will also be required to pay $225 in fines. The U.S. Justice Department says Zhu flew a drone over the base and took aerial photographs over Vandenberg Space Base in California on November 30th. So we know the hearings happened November 13th, I want to say. The 18th was the first date that the drone started being talked about nationally. And so from the 18th of November going truthfully till even up till today, if you want to believe a lot of reports that it's still going on. But just so you know, this is happening right in the moment when things are getting kind of serious. People are now beginning to pay attention to what's above the New Jersey skies. They're getting to a point to where they want to start asking questions, which I would do as well. So that's the time frame we're talking about. Okay, so he did this on November 30th. He did this on the same day SpaceX launched a rocket on behalf of the National Reconnaissance Office. Quote, this defendant allegedly flew a drone over a military base and took photos of the base's layout, which is against the law. United States Attorney Martin Estrada says in a statement, quote, the security of our nation is of paramount importance, and my office will continue to promote the safety of our nation's military personnel and facilities. Drone detection systems at Vandenberg Space Base tracked Zoo's drone, which flew for 59 minutes and traveled to an altitude of almost 1 mile above the ground level to nearby Ocean Park. Vandenberg Space Base security personnel immediately went to the park where they found Zoo and the same drone concealed in his jacket. Federal agents later searched Zoo's drone and discovered several photographs of Vandenberg Space Force Base taken from an aerial viewpoint. He allegedly took images of SpaceX rocket pads and other sensitive areas. Zhu was arrested at San Francisco International Airport on Monday, which is the Monday after the incident, as he waited to board a flight back to China. Reports of drone incursions over sensitive U.S. military sites have been rising in recent years, though the U.S. government has not publicly identified any specific group or individual as responsible. In February, a 71-year-old Canadian tourist was charged with allegedly using a drone to, quote, photograph classified U.S. defense installations. Zhao Guangpan is accused of taking aerial photographs of sensitive and vital military facilities and equipment in Brevard County, Florida, on 3 separate days in January. The U.S. Justice Department also charged a different Chinese national under the Espionage Act for taking photos of a military installation using a drone. He allegedly took pictures of a shipyard where United States military personnel build nuclear submarines. Okay, so swift justice, right? As you would expect, as should happen, right? No problem with that there. Definitely, if you are going to be conducting spy activities, which it would appear that that's what was being done, then you should definitely be held accountable. Now, with that being said, right, we're talking about spying that has been going on since the beginning of time. So this is not new as far as what these individuals were doing. This stuff happens every day. Exactly what they're doing, trying to photograph sensitive areas, attempting to gain access to sensitive areas, attempting to plant individuals in sensitive areas. This has been going on since the beginning of time. So there's no real surprise there. Here's the thing that is sort of ironic though, is that in these instances, you see this drone was big enough to fit, or small enough, I should say, to fit inside of the gentleman's coat. He was able to conceal it in his coat. Okay. This same drone was detected by military equipment on the base as high up as a mile. So imagine a drone that's small enough to fit in your coat, to conceal in your coat. Imagine that drone then going up to a mile. And it was reported as well that it was actually above a mile. I think it got as high as like 8,000 feet. So we're talking about a mile and a quarter, almost close to a mile and a half. So we have the point of that is we have the equipment on these installations where this sensitive information is being held to. We have the ability to detect drones as small as ones that you would hold in your coat. So that means that we definitely have viable equipment to detect drones that are as big as SUVs and as big as two-car garages, right? So we had the ability to not only see the drone that he flew over, but we were able to trace that drone to where his current location was. And military officers were on the scene. By the time he landed the drone, they were there on the spot, right? So assuming drones have to both take off and land at some point, which in most cases we understand that to be the case. Someone powers on their drone, they sit it on the ground or they hold it, they let it take off, it goes and does its business. When it's done doing its business, that drone comes back to the operator. It either lands in the person's hand if they're good enough to do that, or they land on a particular spot. Either way, it is an origination point and a destination point. So I think further and further with that story, now that we know what happened with that national, this all happened during the whole drone debacle, right? The drone debacle. So you're telling me that we caught this guy with the small drone, put him through the court system, and did all this. We and even references other times where we've had other nationals, Chinese nationals, that have done very similar things. These people were caught very quickly. So, if assuming that the New Jersey drone situation had anything to do with human beings, those things would have been resolved just as quickly. And then so you have to ask yourself, why weren't they? Why are we not here in April reading a report about the individuals that launched those drones and what happened to those individuals? Why are we not reading reports about that today? Because the technology was there for them to pin it to a human individual, assuming that this thing had origin point of takeoff and then a destination. Then that's case closed. Why is the case not closed? And I think that just leads more and more, as you've heard recently, Ross Coulthard talk about that he's still getting reports that these things are up there, and in a lot of cases that these things are anomalous. And we'll actually be talking about that in the Jake Barber show, because Jake Barber is actually doing something right now where he's with the Skywatcher group that is kind of looking into those things and taking these things through the vetting process. He's actually looked at some of these New Jersey drones and has they're currently processing the data along with the Tedesco brothers out there in New Jersey, who are in I want to call it the Nightcrawler uh, vehicle. It's basically an RV that's been turned into a research vehicle. But they've been on this New Jersey thing the whole time, and they have data as well, and they have images of things turning and morphing in from this to that. So I think we can pretty much lean in almost 100% on that. Nothing's 100%. I'd go 80 right now, 80%. Whereas we started this 80-20, where it was 80% chance man made, 20% anomalous. That kind of flipped around. Now it's like 80% anomalous, 20% man made, and getting lower by the day, especially when you apply logic to these cases. So I think we can kind of point to that as likely being one of those moments, and one of the reasons why I created this 10-minute video that I'll show a little bit later, that kind of talks about the 5 times that aliens may have actually tried to make contact with humanity. And in that top 5 for me is this New Jersey drone flap. It definitely appears that if these are determined to be anomalous, as we've talked about throughout this entire period since this started, that if this ends up being considered an anomalous event, then this is likely an event where there was an attempt to make contact with humanity. One of those instances that we all ask for and we're waiting for, but it on the face of it doesn't. It's being disguised as something else, right? Because we've been asking for that. Hey, just show up. Just show up. Let's get this out the way and let's get to where we're going. And it almost appears that that is what took place back in January, but we had people within our own community who are the ones wanting to fight for, you know, these extraterrestrials to just show themselves and show. We had those same people were already ready to dismiss the drone thing and say, I'm tired of hearing about it. Let's move on. If you were one of those people, you have to now understand what people say. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't rush to judgment. Allow these things to kind of be vetted out and sorted through before you reach a conclusion that may or may not be the correct one. Because I think a lot of those same people who are like, oh man, I'm tired of hearing drones, are kind of now back in the fold now saying, wait a minute, okay, maybe there was something to it. Right? So we had a chance that it was lesson learned in that, is all I'm saying. And very potentially, possibly one of those moments that we've been asking for, that we've been looking for, Phoenix Light sort of thing, where everybody sees it. There is no secret. There it is right in front of us. This is likely to be considered, if found to be anomalous, completely like it appears to be, just as big as an event as Phoenix Lights. And how could we let something like that slip right through our fingers by not, using our logical mind and just saying, hey, nothing else makes sense. So wanted to get back to that story about these Chinese nationals that have been caught flying actual drones over military facilities, just so you see what the outcome of something like that is. There's no secret to it. There's no mystery. Their names are listed right here. The thing that whatever happened to them in court is listed right here, is not hidden behind any sort of mysterious walls, right? So just wanted to make sure that we went ahead and looked at that. So very important, but we'll cover some more of that as we get in to the next show with the Jake Barber, and just the state of ufology and kind of where it's at right now. Because I think, Jeremy Corbell coming out now with this Tic-Tac video. I mean, we're going to take a look at it. Hopefully we don't get flagged for, it's just an NBC news clip here. But he did also talk about this on the Weaponized podcast, where they had in 2023, captured what appears to be looks just like the original Tic Tac video as far as the shape of the object, reported in the same area, Southern California, right off the coast, training areas near San Diego, same general area, same area where Caroline Corey went and did her research for Terror in the Sky and filmed potentially maybe a portal or wherever these things might be coming through. Also, the same area, 120 miles away from my own UFO sighting, where I caught 47 of these white spherical oblong objects in the sky in the daytime. This is not all coincidence, ladies and gentlemen. Believe me. And I'm going to keep working on this and keep working this until these pieces are put together. I can almost guarantee there has to be relation if the appearance is similar, the behaviors are similar, the area, the region is similar, then there's a lot more things in common than it has that aren't in common, right? And so I think we're on to something. Tic Tac, and I think these spherical oblong shapes are definitely probably one of the more prevalent shapes that are being seen out there. You know, I interviewed, and anytime I talk to a MUFON agent, I ask them the same things, like what are the most common shapes and things that are being presented or reported. And across the board, which with most MUFON members I've talked to, they say spherical shaped things. And so I think that walks away from the, idea that maybe spherical saucer, saucer shaped craft are really the things that are more prevalent. Doesn't appear to be that. It appears to be these other objects that look like Tic Tacs, that even look like the egg video that was shown during the Jake Barber interview. And I think you have to keep your mind open to that part of it, that there are likely a lot or most of these objects that really line up and match up with those objects, Tic Tacs, egg shaped, and just kind of keep that at least in the back of your mind, and not dismiss it or laugh it off as the whole egg joke thing that happened not too long ago. But Corbell definitely brought this back out, and I wanted to make sure that we went ahead and checked out the video for this, and before we talk further, and hopefully we don't get flagged for this. But here we go.
Guess what? There is some brand new UAP video that just dropped, possibly shot from a Navy ship, once again off the coast of Southern California, which for some reason, has been this very, very weird hotspot for all kinds of unidentified flying objects that don't seem to care that there are all kinds of Navy warships that are out there training. Now, quick refresh about why this area matters so much. 2004, we've all seen this video that was showing what was described by Navy pilots flying off the USS Nimitz as a white Tic Tac that was zooming around in ways and speeds they just could not explain. In 2019, sailors on the USS Russell, again off the coast of San Diego, seeing what they described in night vision goggles as upside down pyramids. And then brings us to today, this new infrared video just released by documentary filmmaker Jeremy Corbell, showing what he says was an incident on the USS Jackson. It's one of these littoral ships, one of the highest tech ships that we have in our arsenal. And according to Corbell, Navy sailors were actively tracking one of 4 unknown objects observed going in and out of the water. No heat plumes, no exhaust, nothing. And here is how one of the witnesses on board the ship described it.
I go out to the bridge wing. I'm noticing things and lights on the horizon, and like city lights or any other ships that are out there. So seeing a light that is lifting up, you can see it. I know the difference between a light on the horizon coming up and a light coming out of the water. When you've been on the water more in your life than you haven't been, you know the difference.
Now let's get.
And real quick, when are we going to stop questioning observers of anomalous objects? When are we going to stop acting like, because there is this saying that the human eyes or the human memory is not reliable? I don't know if that's true. Once again we get into the superpowers that we have as human beings, and I think when you talk about the senses that we are born with, that those are literally the best things that we have to probe the world around us. So to have that always discounted as the last thing that people should be trusting, I think is a disservice and propaganda, really.
Now let's get into it with Jeremy Corbell, one of the hosts of Weaponize, the podcast. Welcome back with Jeremy. Thanks so much for being with us. I'm so glad you talked to that sailor there because it gives us so much more context. Like the videos, they're very important, and yet they don't show that much. So real fast, walk us through what this video shows, because if you look very closely, it looks like the targeting is trying to lock in, right?
That's right. So George Knapp and I, with our journalism, we always try to, if we obtain military filmed footage of UAP or UFOs, which this is, we try to get direct witness testimony to go with that. And in fact, these are senior ranking Navy officials. You know, they don't want to go by their full identity at this time, but they will at some point. They're in the Combat Information Center. They get this footage. It's FLIR, forward-looking infrared. So it's black and white. What you're supposed to be seeing, we don't see. We don't see tails. We don't see thermal plumes. We don't see any signature of a normal aircraft. So that's what makes this case fascinating. We have both witnesses coming forward as well as the hardcore data and evidence.
And does that mean black is hot there? Or what's the thermal imaging and like why do we see that tic-tac shape?
Sure. Yeah, so this is in black hot. It can switch between the two. But what's really important about this is that the high-ranking Navy official said, we saw one of these come up out of the water. We then went to radar and we saw 4 of them. We then took our thermal cameras and we looked at one. And when you look at a plane, it looks like a plane. This doesn't look like a plane. In fact, it looks like the Tic-Tac from 2004, where Commander David Fravor chased a UFO for the United States military. So look, it's tracked on radar, it's tracked on FLIR. We're lucky to have some of this footage that you're able to see now. But what you're not seeing, Gotti, is you're not seeing the typical signatures you'd see on an aircraft. This is a very unique propulsion system, it appears, from this footage. And again, people have come forward and risked to bring this footage to me and George Knapp. And as journalists, we have a duty to put it out after investigating it. I'm glad that it's out now.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're putting it out too. And again, you know, we are lucky to see those images, but what happens all the way before that is what's really important. And I mean, if you get a chance, go back and listen to what Commander Fravor said about what happened back in 2004, opened your eyes. But Jeremy, I know you've been pushing for government disclosure on all this, like harder than anybody else I know. This administration seemed to suggest that they were going to get to the bottom of it, and yet, like, so far, we are pretty well into this. Why aren't we seeing like more tangible evidence from people that aren't just coming forward scared to lose their jobs and scared to lose their livelihoods? Like, why don't you think we're seeing, like the government say, this is what's going on?
Yeah, well, that's changing. Easy way or hard way. As you know from the last hearing, when I brought the Immaculate Constellation information to Congress, we learned that there are thousands of high-quality videos that the public has not seen of UFOs. The dam is breaking. People are coming forward. And George Knapp and I have already recorded with some of these whistleblowers. So we know that footage is coming out, those interviews. So I think it's just a matter of time that we're going to get more information on this. Look, it's a long-haul thing. UFOs have been taboo for so long. It's now admitted that they're flying with impunity within our restricted airspace, and we have footage like this, military filmed UAP from a Navy warship in a critical area just off the coast of California. It's going to take time, but you know, you got to be optimistic. You got to keep fighting, easy way or hard way. And this is going to come out.
Yeah, I can't wait to know what is going off the coast of California here. I mean, this is a very weird hotspot. Jeremy Corbell, just another video that you have now released to the public. We really appreciate you covering all this for us.
Thanks for watching.
All right. So with that being said, the activity still persists. And I think you do get to a point to where, like I said, one of the excuses that a lot of people will use out there is without proof, with just assuming that humans are the best thing since sliced bread, that we have figured out, we've mastered this technology. We've mastered it, and we are flying these things around the planet in front of everyone for everyone to see. We've made many points on the fact that it doesn't make sense ever that the United States government would test any of these things in front of the general public and in front of potential Chinese nationals that may take that information back to China, right? It would never have, we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't do it. We have never done it, and there wouldn't be a reason why we would start doing it now. So, I think one of the biggest things that we have to do is really reconcile with the fact that we probably have created some cool stuff and some stuff that might be cutting edge for sure. But to take the leap to humans have created anti-gravitic craft, I think is a bit much. And the more and more that we have these black projects come to light as time goes on, like I said, in another 20 years, when we're releasing another fixed wing craft that uses normal means of propulsion, you could definitely throw it out the window by then, because according to some people, we've been working on this since the 50s. We've been working on anti-gravitic since the 50s and 60s. So there has to be a time where you kind of have to let that go if you're not seeing any proof of that being released or implemented in any of the projects that are coming to light. So obviously the Tic-Tac takes us back to one of the most exciting UFO stories that we've had over the last, couple decades here. And that was and this is actually a screenshot from the video of this current Tic-Tac from 2023, the one Corbell just released. And this is a zoomed in photo as well. And I don't think you can really argue with what shape this is, though there will be people that will try to argue that this is you're seeing the back end of a jet, right? Mick West. I know Mick West is they're calling on Mick West right now to try to debunk this, but I'll tell you what, I think what we can say is that it looks a lot like the video that was released back in 2004, or that was taken in 2004 of the what they call the Tic-Tac. In that event, we had David Fravor, Alex Dietrich came forward, talked about their encounter with it. Fravor had visuals on the actual craft, saw exactly what it looked like, the behaviors of it. And this radar video that has just come out kind of just at least leans into the fact that likely it is the same object that was taken, that was represented in the 2004 video as well. And I don't know, I think we might have a screenshot of that. Let me see. Okay. Yeah. I mean, obviously not the best. But if you remember this video here, this is taken from the video. Put those side by side, and you're pretty much looking at identical objects here. So, very interesting. And I think, like I said before, Corbell definitely seems to, have the ability to kind of release something in a moment where we really need it, right? Because if you look across the board, there's definitely been a lull in UFO reports as far as news goes. Reports are still happening daily, but as far as news goes, anything substantial in the news world it's definitely been down. So it's always appreciated when someone who has data steps forward with data and adds it to the conversation. I think this will kind of maybe open doors for some of these other things to come. Some of the things that I'm still hopeful for, and I think have to happen, is and we'll talk more about this on the social dig video, where we'll talk about Jake Barber and Corbell and kind of the state of ufology as it is as a whole. But I'll tell you that the Jake Barber video, the video that came out during the Jake Barber interview, because obviously we know that it wasn't his video, but I still think there's a play there as far as a reason why it was presented in that way. I feel like whoever is connected to that video is going potentially to be the next person that we may hear from, or that may kind of rock the UFO world with their account on how they retrieved that video, how they took that video, what that video really means, where that object currently is, how long they've been doing this for said contractor, and where that contractor is and who that contractor is. I think that big story is still yet to come. And if we could talk to Ross, if I could, use a crystal ball right now to kind of predict one of the big stories that are yet to come, it's got to be that one. There's no way that video gets released without acknowledging who released it and then putting a period on that. I think it's definitely set up for someone to claim that video, hopefully sometime this year. And so I think maybe we're going to begin to start ramping things back up as far as the conversation goes. And then who knows? We still have Age of Disclosure that hasn't been released for some reason. They've shown it at South by Southwest. We don't know why they haven't released it to the public yet, but as far as momentum and just enthusiasm for the subject, I think that will generate some there. And then those are the things that we can look at and say, okay, those things are likely to take place. We have no clue about the things that are waiting in the wings, like the Corbell Tic-Tac video, right? That just came out of nowhere. There's, I'm sure, other things along those lines that are kind of just being held back in the moment. I think one thing we have to know is that the government that we have currently in office isn't going to do anything, just like the previous one didn't. And I'm sure the next one after this won't have any interest in releasing the UFO secret. And we've talked about why. Some angles are to not lose control of the citizens, of people, of the power structure, right? But then we also talked recently about how maybe some of these governments understand that and look at these visitors from outside as adversaries, and potentially, due to some sort of conflict that may have taken place over the years, different situations that we were able to talk about on the previous show. And if you missed that, definitely go back and watch the UFO, the adversarial video, because I think there's some points in there that make sense. But with that being said, I'm just glad to see that there are definitely conversations being had here. I did want to point to kind of back up the Ross Coulthart part of this, where I feel like there's definitely going to be more to who actually provided that egg video and where that might be going. Ross said this, couldn't have said it any better during a Need to Know show recently. I think it was about a month or so ago, but the video is still compelling. So let's go ahead and see what he had to say, along with Bryce Zabel.
Tell me, there's, the classic video that there was even a promo from News Nation about, where everyone knows what I'm talking about. It's the night vision goggle version of the rope hanging down and the egg craft wrapped in something and that kind of thing. What is the provenance? You'd ask the same question of anyone else. So I'm just asking you, what's the provenance of that? Where did that video come from? Is it actually taken from Barber's craft, or was it taken at a different time? There's just a lot of rumor and misinformation on that one. So let's clear it up right now.
Clearly, I have many other sources inside the Legacy program. Clearly, there are other people talking to me. And clearly, I've been able to procure the video from the retrieval program in a completely separate operation from Jake Barber. Barber did not give me that video, period. That's all I
Was
can
it
say.
taken from Barber's Craft, though, I guess is the question.
No.
No. So it's if anything, and again, I'd almost have to watch your show again because I think that the initial rush of comment was people going, somebody said, well, by the way, that wasn't even taken, that's not related to it. And they put them together. But
you know what I find? It's funny, you give the UAP community what they want. And they come galloping over the hill like the cavalry going, oh, it's all a CIA psyop. It's all bullshit. Don't trust them. They're all false flags. And then you had other people saying, oh, it's an aerogel balloon. Don't you think if it was an aerogel balloon, the Pentagon would have been out on Monday morning, first thing, saying, this is complete bollocks. This is an aerogel balloon.
Right.
I mean, the bottom line is they know what we've got. They know what we're sitting on. And they're very nervous about what we're going to do with the rest of what we've got. And they'd better make a decision.
Can you
That's
define they? When you say they,
the gatekeepers, the people who are sitting on this absurd secret, we're doing them a favor.
Yeah. And if you can read between the lines, which I know a lot of you can out there, then you can tell by that statement that there is more to come. And what really gets me motivated about that is, for one, I feel like the video itself, if someone were going to try to hoax something, they would have hoaxed something that looks like a saucer-shaped craft. Maybe damaged or broken up saucer-shaped craft, right? Because instantly, for even those who don't look a lot into the subject, that is what you consider a UFO, a saucer-shaped craft. Not a lot of people will look at an egg-shaped object and have a one-to-one and say that's a UFO. That's what gives me, some hope, that a lot of hope that what they showed was actually real. Not only that, but as we've talked about in other videos, that the shape itself has been reported historically throughout time. And once again, history is the best indicator of things you may currently deal with or things you may deal with here in the future. So a lot of things point to that video being very valid. And then a thing that Ross said during that clip there is that they know that it's real. And they are the people in those programs. So whatever contractor was on the receiving end of that, of receiving that object, they know that video is real. And with that being said, if they know the video is real, then they know that very likely there are a group of people that probably shouldn't know that do know potentially which one of the contractors is holding that object. And if you could point to that contractor that received that object, it's very likely that wasn't the first crash retrieval that they had been on, and likely other objects are also being held as well. So the people in those programs that have seen that object, that have seen this video, that were there during the transport, they know that there's a reporter out there who is fully locked into their part in the crash retrieval program. And I think that is the thing that busts this thing wide open. You don't get any closer than that, which is why I feel like they did not announce who gave the video initially. Because I don't know if you can get any higher as far as whistleblowers go than the person that would have given you that video and said, I was flying that helicopter. I picked that object up and I took it to this contractor. The only way that gets any better is if you are actually at the contractor and we're bringing cameras in and we're taking a look at all the things that they've retrieved over time. That's the only thing that could be better than being in this position that we're potentially in right now. And I know Ross is playing his cards on this, and I hope he's playing them right. And I just feel like, as far as one of the next momentous shoes that are going to drop in this conversation, is going to have a lot to do with how he got that video, who the video came from, where that object is, who's the name of the contractor, and pretty much that's it. And you would have to guess that this has all been talked to Congress. We don't know if Congress is going to do anything with the information. That's still yet to be seen. I don't know that what they've done with all the other information they received so far. It would appear that they should have enough testimony and enough direction to know where they need to look at this point. So whether or not they're doing anything with the information is to be determined. But I think we're in a really good spot right now in this UFO community, as far as almost being at the door of where these things are being held. My only hope is that they don't give these contractors a chance to move these objects around or relocate where these things are, right? Because you would hate to have that day come up where you're going to knock on the door of these facilities just to find out that they've already moved these objects. That would be a missed opportunity, for one. And so hopefully, at the very least, there's a group of individuals out there that are keeping an eye, that know who the contractor is, and are keeping an eye on those facilities for any sort of movement like that. Because I think we're right there. And it may not feel like it, right? Because there's this lull in the news reporting out here on the subject. But I think it's the reality, and it might actually serve as a reason why things had gotten so quiet, because that UFO, that retrieval video, is so very important to the next step, that what other news would really shake things up, right? And so I feel like that's kind of where we are. And once again, you got to give a shout out to Jeremy Corbell, because if you look historically over these news releases and video releases, that, it's always, hey, Corbell, we know you have a video, drop a video. And it's never really the right time, right? So if he drops this video a year ago when everybody's like, hey, drop something new, then all of a sudden the luster is off, and it's not strategically being done. So you got to at least tip your hat to Corbell for that fact, that they're keeping some things tucked in order to release in moments where the news appears to be none, in an effort to keep the motivation there and to keep the story moving along like it should, right? Last thing you want is for a majority of the people to lose interest in not realize where we are in this very important moment. So, which is why we do these shows here, and which is why we never let the drone thing go, and I still don't think we should. Which is why we never let the Nazca mummy thing go, and I don't think we should. Which is why, until things get disproven, that we hold on to a lot of this stuff as data, because at the end of the day, we get to go back and look at it, right? We talked about you would think the Nazca mummy thing would be case closed, right? Someone should go and look at it, determine it's nothing, case closed. But it's still lingering and it's still hanging around, because there are individuals that have examined some of the evidence and are saying, dude, we can't just close the case on it, right? A lot of weird things going on. And, that's what kind of led me into doing some of this other stuff. I said, and I keep saying on these shows, that we're going to do something called social bits, just pre-recorded short form content. And we went ahead and we just made a video earlier, just to kind of see, for one, what the feel of it was, so we could see what we need to adjust, or how we, could present things in a better light. So we kind of rushed this one out the door. I think it was okay. I think the message is more important than anything. And really just looking back at 5 times that these beings may have actually been attempting to make contact with us, right? Because we keep thinking contact is going to be, oh, they're going to land on the ground, open their doors in front of everybody, walk out to meet and greet whoever we choose to be the intermediary or the authority figure that gets to make that first handshake, right? That's how we envision it. But we may have at different times in our recent past have come across these moments where these things were trying to initiate that first step of contact. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video that we created behind this, and then we'll get ready to wrap up the show. And here we go. History. Humans have reported encounters with unexplained aerial phenomena, objects defying known physics, massive silent craft, and interactions suggesting attempts at communication. While skeptics often attribute these incidents to misidentifications or mass hysteria, others believe they represent genuine attempts at contact from unknown intelligences. Today, we delve into 5 significant UFO events where something, perhaps extraterrestrial, seemed to be reaching out. From schoolyards to major cities, these incidents have left witnesses and researchers alike with more questions than answers. Number 1, the Aerial School UFO encounter. The tranquility of the playground was disrupted when approximately 60 children observed a bright silver object descending from the sky. The object reportedly landed or hovered just above the ground in a bushy area adjacent to the schoolyard. The children described the craft as a large, shiny silver disc. Some noted a red light or a ring around its edge. More astonishingly, they reported seeing one or more beings near the object. These entities were described as small in stature, approximately 4 feet tall, with disproportionately large heads and massive black oval-shaped eyes. They wore tight-fitting, shiny black clothing. One student recounted, "I felt like he was warning us about the environment, about the future." Another described, "We saw this like silver thing down there. It was a silver oval thing that flew away really slowly." The children's accounts were remarkably consistent, despite being interviewed separately. Noted Harvard psychiatrist Dr. John E. Mack traveled to Zimbabwe to interview the witnesses and found their testimonies credible. The incident remains one of the most compelling UFO encounters with no definitive explanation to date. Number 2, the Westall School UFO incident. Over 200 students and teachers witnessed a metallic, saucer-like craft hovering above the school's yard. The object moved erratically, sometimes darting in ways that defied conventional flight patterns. Suddenly, it descended into a nearby area known as the Grange, a patch of open land adjacent to the school. Students who raced to the scene described a circular craft about the size of a car resting on the ground. Some noted that it had a hump on top and round features underneath. Before anyone could get closer, the object rapidly ascended and disappeared from view. In the aftermath, military personnel and men in dark suits arrived quickly, instructing witnesses to remain silent. Some reports suggest that authorities confiscated photographs taken by students. The event was minimally covered in the media, with explanations ranging from weather balloons to mass hysteria. However, no conclusive explanation has been provided. The consistency of witnesses' accounts, coupled with the swift response from authorities, has led many to believe that this was a significant event. Decades later, witnesses stand by their stories, and the incident remains unexplained, fueling speculation about a possible cover-up. Number 3, the Phoenix Lights. Thousands of people across Nevada and Arizona reported seeing a massive V-shaped formation of lights moving silently across the sky. The formation was enormous, with estimates suggesting it spanned over a mile in length. Witnesses described it as blocking out stars as it passed overhead. Observers recounted a series of amber orbs aligned in a V-shaped formation gliding silently. Some reported seeing a solid structure connecting the lights, while others perceived them as individual entities moving in unison. The event lasted for several hours, with sightings reported between 7:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. The U.S. Air Force later explained the lights as flares dropped during training exercises at the Berry Goldwater Range. However, this explanation contradicted many eyewitness accounts, which described a structured craft rather than separate descending lights. The Phoenix Lights remains one of the most well-documented witnessed UFO events in history. The disparity between official explanations and witness testimonies has led to ongoing debates and investigations, with no consensus reached to this day. Number 4, UFOs over Washington, D.C. Radar operators at Washington National Airport and other nearby facilities detected unidentified objects moving in restricted airspace over the White House and the Capitol. These objects exhibited extraordinary speeds and maneuverability, prompting immediate concern. Pilots and radar operators described luminous orbs and fast-moving lights that would appear suddenly, change direction abruptly, and vanish from sight. Fighter jets were scrambled to intercept, but the objects seemed to evade pursuit effortlessly. The Air Force held a press conference, the largest since World War II, attributing the sightings to temperature inversions causing radar anomalies. However, this explanation did not satisfy many, given the visual confirmations by pilots and radar operators. The 1952 Washington, D.C. UFO incidents remain a significant chapter in UFO history. The combination of radar detections, visual sightings, and the proximity to the nation's political heart has led to continued intrigue and speculation about the nature of these unidentified objects. Number 5, the New Jersey drone phenomenon. The drones were described as being as large as SUVs, emitting loud humming noises and flying in groups over residential areas and near sensitive locations, including military installations and critical infrastructure. The sheer number and size of these drones led to widespread public concern and media coverage. Witnesses across multiple counties reported seeing formations of drones flying at low altitudes. Some described them as having a bright, flashing lights and moving in synchronized patterns. The sightings were consistent over several weeks, with reports peaking in early December and into January. The Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, imposed temporary flight restrictions over critical infrastructure areas in New Jersey, citing security concerns. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security launched investigations, urging the public to report any suspicious drone activity. Despite extensive efforts, officials were unable to identify the operators of the drones, leading to widespread speculation and theories about their origin. So ask yourself, were these some top secret government craft? Were these prosaic, explainable objects? Or more likely, were these 5 times that aliens may have attempted to make contact with humanity? Leave a comment and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Until next time. Yeah. So I think very compelling if you take those instances and you look at those, the school sightings in front of all those people who were able to witness what happened and witness extraterrestrial beings get out of the craft to sit up right over the nation's capital in a swarm, in a fleet of UFOs kind of just hanging out. That happened for not just one day. That was from the 12th of July through the 29th. 2 weeks. Right? The Phoenix Lights, right over a very populated city. Just kind of meandering, taking his time, crossing the city for everyone to see. The New Jersey drone situation, which is still ongoing technically, done over a super populated area for months, daily, nightly for months. If all cases are considered anomalous, and I can almost at this point say that all of them were, then you got to ask yourself, were those instances where whoever controls those things were attempting to get our attention and maybe initiate some sort of contact on some level? Very compelling at the very least. You would have to, if you're using common sense logic, you're really looking into this, you would have to point to those as times where they may have been trying to extend the olive branch, make that moment of contact, and usher in a paradigm shift for humanity. Does it get any better? When people talk about aliens landing on the White House lawn, those instances we just looked at are the equivalent of that. In those children sightings, if there was some sort of ambassador, human ambassador, who was able to step forward, because here's the thing with the aerial school sighting, and I didn't know this until we watched the documentary on it and heard from one of the students that had grown up. She essentially said the distance between the kids and the extraterrestrials was a very small distance, something like 2 meters, or I think she ended up saying. That's like 6 feet. That's like almost being within reach of one of these extraterrestrial beings. So that blew my mind right there. I'm thinking, okay, it's maybe across a field a little distance where you could see it could see you, but not anywhere near the proximity that she ended up confirming. We're talking about within feet of one of these things. So are we to not look at that as, so you could look at that as one or two things. This extraterrestrial landed to potentially abduct all of these kids that are sitting there watching. Very unlikely, because they can do this individually and take you out of bed from what people have reported. So it wouldn't be that. It would, the only logical thing left would be that they would do this in order to try to make that first contact. And are we turning our eye on contact in the moments that they're attempting to do it? How many times do you think that a contact event would happen within your lifetime? Once, if you're lucky, I would think. But we have multiple times here within the last, let's see, Ariel, if we go to Westall School, that was 1966, and I think that was the oldest event that we just showed there. So in the last 60 almost 60 years, 59 years, there are 5 clear cases in the last 59 years, 5 clear cases where extraterrestrials may have been trying to initiate a first contact. Think about that. Think about that. As much as people are sitting around talking about waiting for disclosure, waiting for this to happen, waiting for that, waiting for someone to admit that extraterrestrials exist, think of in the last 59 years, there are 5 clear-cut cases where you could almost point to extraterrestrials trying to make their presence known and potentially even going a step further to initiate a first contact. What do you do with that? I think that means that we handle every case that we have delicately. We don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater and assume that human beings are so excellent and so great that we've mastered this other technology that we don't even understand, and realize what the moment is actually bringing us. It may actually, so the conversation should be had is, how do we handle that first contact? How do we set that up? Who's the person that speaks? Do we speak? How do we approach that? I think those are the things that we should probably be working on right now, just based on the fact that we can point to at least 5 times where they may have been trying to reach out to us. Very compelling. And you don't look at it, and that's another thing I always say, like when you look at those cases individually, it's like, okay, yeah, very, very awesome encounter. Man, that was, a first person encounter. Wow. But when you look at them all together, that's where you can see the picture. And that's where you can see that this is potentially something more than we may have realized or gave it credit for in the beginning. Right? So saying all that to say that I'm just glad that the conversation is moving again, that we have some new news out here in the UFO community, which means we have more things to talk about. And I think this quiet time has allowed us to kind of think and rethink and maybe shift perspective a little bit. We talked about whistleblowers and kind of shifting perspective on that a little bit. And I think this was the perfect time to do all of that. So now that we get back into re-engaging with the phenomena and the conversation that we've tweaked our angles a little bit, right? And I think that is not a bad thing. I think that's actually a good thing. It means we're more rational in the approach. It means that we value data more than we did. And we can look for things that we may not have seen previously. That goes for all of us. So definitely good reason to sit out and do a show. And I'm glad we were able to sit here and do that. I know the messages are just way, way behind. Let me see. Who is this? I'll try to get through as quick as possible. Super Crazy Movie Geek. They saw Tic-Tac with the actual eyeballs. That must have been freaky to witness. You daggone straight. Even mines. I have to add, if I added mines to that list, from my experience, I feel like my sighting was just as impactful as the ones we listed. We're talking about broad daylight, 12 in the afternoon, 47 objects just flying over a city. Are you trying to tell me that's not a moment that whatever those things are trying to be seen by whoever's down below? It definitely was one of those moments, and I'm just shocked that more people didn't report that. That's what blows my mind. Let's see. Super Crazy Movie Geek saying, take a guess which contractor it is. Yeah, I think we're at that point. We're at that point now. And I think contractors are sweating and shaking in their boots because now the jig is up. The contractor talk used to be so far from home for them because there's multiple contractors. And first, you have to believe that they're going to contractors. There's no one out there saying that they are. is just a rumor. But now that we have people that saying yes, they are going to contractors. Yes, I work for a contractor, and likely they've gone a step further and said who those contractors are. Now things are getting a little crazy out there. And skeptics, bring skeptics in on this too, because this is something for all of us to witness and take in, right? Skeptics, you may be finding out for the first time that, man, there are elements of the government that are doing things that are very, very strange. And, this may be like the entry point for a lot of skeptics to kind of look at it and be like, wow, things really are going on. Let's see. All right, just flipping through the messages. I'm pretty far back. Just zoom in. Okay, super crazy movie geek. If the government wanted all their retrieved craft back from the aerospace companies, could they get them back without a problem? Ooh, that's a good question. And that could be the fight behind the scenes, right? That could be a fight that we were unaware of and not privy to. I don't know if we would ever know that until it all comes out, right? Shout out to Area 51 and Joanne, Super Crazy Movie Geek. I've seen you guys come in afterwards. Fast Hemi as well. Let's see who else. Area 51 says, nope, we are not going to Jeremy and giving him credit. Nope. Jordan Peterson, that's like saying Billy Carson is right. He is next. I just went in on Lou Ellie and he was shook. You know, we hopefully will be having Lou here on the show soon as well. We are definitely working on that to get him on the after hour show. I'd say we're probably 50% there. We've had conversation and we're just trying to get the commitment, confirmation, and if it does manifest itself, which I'm working on it, it will be an interesting conversation. You could bet that. Area 51 Lou was just live on UFO Man, and I went on him. He got mad at me with the chat, and like I stated, no one cares like an outside mind, so don't call yourself an open-minded person. I get it, man. Some people have, but what you have to do, you have to step back and ask yourself why you don't like Lou Elizondo. And maybe you have legitimate reasons for not liking the person, but you if we're talking about getting to the answers and Lou is a messenger, right? With some of these answers, I don't know that there should be that personal connection there. I don't know if someone you've never met or someone that you don't know can affect you personally on a personal level in order for there to be this hate there or to not, you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say there? You may not have liked something that was said. I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning is, but I'm just I don't think that my whole thing with any of the whistleblowers is you take the nuggets out of what is said. Maybe some of the stuff is not true. I'm not going to hate the person for that, but I am going to sift through what was said and I'm going to take the things that make sense, that when you apply them to historical data, these things line up. Because I think that's what we're supposed to be doing. I think if you're spending time getting personally outraged by an individual, I think you're going too deep. You may be committing too much of yourself into that conversation. And I don't think we should be doing that. Let's see. And I will be watching a UFO Man. I know they were having them coming up soon. So I'll be checking that out to see how that went. But he there's a good chance he'll be here on the after hours. So keep an eye out for that. And just know that if that conversation happens, it's going to be a very different conversation. It's not going to be anything that you've ever witnessed Lou Elizondo be a part of. It's going to be something that moves the needle, but it's not going to be an attack fest. It's not going to be any of that, because I don't think that moves the needle, right? I think we can all agree on what's wrong is wrong, but that's not what we're having a conversation for. We're having a conversation to talk to someone who has information on some things that may be able to help get answers to the questions that we have. And none of the questions that I have to do with anything, personal about Lou Elizondo, as far as did he lie about this or lie about that. I could care less. Everyone lies. And if you're lying about lying, then you're lying right now. Yeah, really. All right. Let me get up current here. And this has to do with the drones. Fast Hemming says they were drones. You could hear them. I don't know if you're talking about the New Jersey drones but and I think Fast Hemi is out in that area. So we're definitely leaning on people from that area, because I'm way out in California. Okay, and looks like we are now current. Okay, so yeah, I just definitely wanted to get that out there. I think this is a good moment, and once again, who else is bringing data and videos and things of that nature out? We have to remember, a lot of us are just sitting at home watching TV, right? A lot of us aren't actually out there doing things to bring data out. There are some of us who have joined research groups, and even, as we talked the other day, joined MUFON to kind of take in accounts of UFO experiences. But a lot of us aren't doing much. A lot of us are just sitting back forming opinions. And I think there's room for all of us to do something to try to go ahead and bring this thing forward. I think, if you think outside the box, there's definitely something that could be that we would need you in particular for to do X, Y, or Z. So that's why I'm saying throwing the baby out with the bathwater. If you can't do anything, obviously showing up and giving your opinion is something that matters. But at the same time, I don't know about, for the people that are out there doing things, I don't know that the best way forward is to chastise those people for making mistakes here and there, because at least they're out there trying to do something, right? So you just, at the end of the day, you want to walk away and you want to take the nuggets that apply to the story, that can be validated, and the things that add to the overall picture, in order to get the value out of, someone else's research. As my channel grows, and if I get, a chance to not always have to be in studio, then I would myself like to travel to some of these hearings, or travel to some of these UFO hotspots like New Jersey, when that whole thing. If I had the ability under this channel, I would have definitely packed up and went out there for a week and just tried to answer some questions or further data that was being applied to the conversation. So that's the way this channel will be going as we continue to get into this. We'll be on the road doing things. We'll be in Las Vegas next month, going out to Area 51. So I plan on filming something in regards to Area 51 while we're there. A lot more things coming on this channel. Really getting things locked in the direct. Partnerships matter, man. That's You know, those things go to help to allow me to go take that trip, or you know, allow me to pay the subscription for streaming this month, or that's what those things go to help on this channel. So, and I always hate to be the one that has to put it out there, because everybody here, if you've been here long enough, I've done this for free, and you know I have no problem with doing it for free. But at the same time, in order for this thing to grow, we definitely have to have things like memberships and super chats if it's all available. Anything that like that goes to help us get out on the road and do more than presently doing to try to, you know, get the answers that we need. That's just the way it is. And, you know, I'm all about humanity and making this thing move, and I will continue to do it regardless on what is put in front of me. But I would like to get out there, get on the road, and try to help in an additional way. So we'll get there. We'll get there. But with that being said, guys, this has been an awesome show tonight. Impromptu. I think we got some good messages out there. I think we should definitely consider what we talked about today and maybe apply it to how we go forward. The next show we have set up is a social dig show. So let me kind of go ahead and get into those slides here. All right. Tic-Tac UFO is back. Definitely is. And that is the show. Coming soon, Social Bits, as we just played a moment ago. We'll be doing pre-recorded content, trying out different things as time goes on. So keep a lookout, keep an eye out for that. If you see a little 9-10 minute video, just go ahead, watch it, you know, give a like, let me know how you feel about it. Let me know what you'd like to see done differently so we can keep making this thing move in the direction that you guys appreciate. And as well, we want to go ahead and talk about the other shows. Right now, you are at the definitive UFO news show. We have the Social Dig, which we'll be trying one of those episodes here in the next day or two. I already posted a thumbnail for it, where we'll talk about the state of ufology. So the old Social Dig is back. So we'll be doing that. Also, my experience with the phenomena. All I'm waiting for there is for one of you to step forward and be a guest on that show. That show is about talking about your experiences with the phenomena, and is not a show I can do on my own. So I would love to have you send me in a brief little thing about your experience. You can do that at booksocialshow@gmail.com, or just text me on the number 856-843-3444, or that's 856-THE-DIGG, so we can get you booked for an episode of my experience with the phenomena. Also, we have the late night call-in show. We may give that a shot tonight because I've hooked everything up, and we may do a test run on that tonight. But guess what? Only way you know is if you hit that notification bell and get notified next time we go live. Also, if you're out there in the lurker land and you're here for the first time, please consider hitting that subscribe button. We have a lot of great conversations on this channel. We cover the news as it comes, as we talked about before, and we will continue to do that until we start getting answers. And otherwise, just come here for that, and we would appreciate that. So, with that being said, those memberships, again, they're available. You can click on the description in every video we have here. We'll give you the link to join a membership. Once again, memberships help build this channel, help this channel grow. And outside of that, I'm going to go ahead and play the t-shirt commercial, and then we are out of here. I will talk to you guys soon. Welcome to the Social Shop, courtesy of the Social Dig. I am Mr. Rob G, and we are bringing you exclusive gear, and tonight's no different. We have humanity t-shirts, the positive progression of humanity. Yes, you can go out into the world and proudly show everyone what humanity means to you. $32.99. And remember, if you're a social soldier, you get an additional 20% off the price. That's right. Being a social soldier gets you an additional 20% off. And keep in mind, depending where you are in the world, shipping fees and taxes will be applied. Bringing you exclusive gear right here at the Social Shop on the Social Dig.